trading social media for being a little more social. Connecting with new friends. Game day, just an Amtrak away.
All right, welcome in onto our Cuse Sports Talk only postgame show after the Orange loss. What the heck was the final score? I don't even know. 79-74. It was Texas Tech over Syracuse. Basically, from the jump in this one, Syracuse did not lead until it was 5-2, which was early on in the game. And then from there, they never regained the lead. And a lot to get into after going 0-2 in another one of these early season tournaments here. Syracuse used to own these games, it felt like, in New York. And they played against two teams that, in theory, were supposed to beat them. And that's what happened. I feel that last night's game was a lot more encouraging than tonight's loss. I don't know, maybe if that was just a me thing, but the crowd got into it last night. There was the comeback. There was some good stuff from last night's game. And, you know, tonight, it was weird. Syracuse was hanging around the entire game. It was within reach the entire game. Heck, Chris Bell had a chance to cut it to a 2-point game with a wide open three. And Bell actually did play pretty well and got to the free throw line. That was a career high in free throw attempts tonight for Chris Bell. So not to get on him of all the players after this one, but even though they had a chance to cut it to 2 late and they were in this game the entirety, I don't know. We can hear from you. The phone lines are still open here. 315-437-7644. Get in the chat. Drop your questions in there. We always say no breaks on QSportsTalk.com, but literally no breaks. We're here for the next hour. We are just stream of consciousness. You can get in your phone calls as well. That's still up and running, so we'll get to some of the calls here shortly as well. And maybe this was a me thing. Maybe this isn't how you guys felt, but I never really felt like Syracuse was going to win this game tonight. Even though they were right there, I never for a moment thought, you know, they're going to do it. They're going to beat Texas Tech tonight. And I don't know. It just doesn't feel like they have enough right now. It feels like they have enough to hang around, but there's just such a work in progress. And even the way that these rotations and lineups are being thrown out by Red right now, you can tell they don't even know what is their best lineup. I mean, Red doesn't know at the moment. I guess, how could you know? It's a new look team, and this was game 5. But it is sort of puzzling. Like, Carlos plays pretty much the entire, first 35 minutes of this game? How many minutes did Carlos play in this one? He played 26 minutes. Okay, so he basically played until, like, the midway point of the second half. He probably played 26 of the first 30 minutes, something like that. And then we just don't see him the rest of the game, which I think a lot of fans probably are happy that there was no Carlos down the stretch. And I'm curious to get everyone's thoughts here on the rotations after this one, because Carlos doesn't play at all after he checks out. Then you go back to yesterday, Majstorovic didn't play at all, literally did not touch the floor, and then he's in there in crunch time. And you can tell even the announcers are like, Majstorovic, like, again, what's he doing in this? And it's not like Peter was bad. I mean, it's 6 rebounds, 11 minutes. I believe he played 3 minutes in the first half. Then he played the last 8 minutes of this game, picked up 3 fouls in 11 minutes. So he's a foul-heavy guy, and that's something to keep in mind as they continue on with the season here. But it's not as if there was a break in the games to have an organized practice or two, and Majstorovic showed you more in those practices. It's just matchup-based. This was not a game for Naheem McLeod because all the ball screens that Texas Tech puts you in. And then, we're getting some commenters, and they're spot on. Eddie Lampkin was burned and clearly was not himself. I don't think Lampkin had an assist in this game. 0 assists for Eddie, which Syracuse had 8 assists as a team. They had at least 15 assists in every game this season. The first 4 games this year, they had at least 15 assists, and they did not have double-digit assists for the first time this year. They had 8 team assists, and that's because Lampkin normally gives you 5, 6, 7 at times assists a game, and he gave you nothing tonight. And the ball just wasn't in Eddie's hands as much because he was totally winded. He did pull down 8 rebounds. He played 28 minutes, but, Lampkin sort of took over the game for stretches last night in the second half and was the energy spark. and he never was able to summon that today. So it's a bummer because maybe if you played Texas Tech the first time around, you would have had a chance to beat them. Although they still just, again, it didn't feel like Syracuse was really ever in position to truly win that game tonight, at least to me. Even though they hovered around down by 4, down by 6, down by 8, kind of in that range. So get your comments flowing here inside the Q Sports Talk chat. It is a Q Sports Talk exclusive post-game tonight with the Syracuse Crunch going on, but we're still taking some phone calls. I believe we've got a caller on the line. Maybe Jordan can let me know who that is before I go to it. I don't want to click it until I'm 100% sure. I figured it was Pat. All right, let's go to the lines. I should have just assumed it was Pat. So, Pat, you'll kick us off tonight. What's on your mind after that one?
Hey, I got the crunch in the background for some reason for you.
All right. I would assume... Let's see if I can correct that.
I mean, this could be really fun.
Yeah, it's got to be because of the two callers. Jordan's going to... This is why it's Q Sports Talk only, so we can figure this out. It would be... I thought it'd be that, but no. Which button is wrong? Can we figure this out? This doesn't normally happen, right? Hang on, Pat. We're working on it.
Last year.
Oh, we figured it out, I think. You got it now?
There we go.
All right. What's on your mind, Pat?
You know, I'd love to blame Pauly for this, but I'm sure this can't be his fault, so that stinks.
Yeah, for once, it's not Pauly's fault. I'm usually all for blaming Pauly, too, but yeah, we can't blame him for this one. No. All
right, so I'm going to start with the positives. These two losses, though you really needed to get one of them, I mean, luckily, with the 3-0 start, and none of those games anybody felt good about. In fact, I'd say most people felt like we lost those games, that at least you took care of business. I mean, in other words, if you had dropped one of those three, I mean, you are way behind. Now, our metrics did drop and all that, but if the team can continue to improve and play the way it did in New York, I don't think there's going to be as much to complain about because...
Is that an NCAA tournament team? Let's put it that way.
It's going to be close. I mean,
yeah.
it's going to be close.
It's impossible to say. I know, but just from what you saw in those two games, yeah.
Well, so that's going to lead to my negative, but the positives are the positives are I was really happy to see Masterovich, or however you say his last name. I'm still working on that.
Majstorovic, yeah.
Majstorovic. Petor Mastorovich. Yeah, that's going to take some practice. But,
yeah.
But the point, it doesn't fly off my tongue, but everything else does, so whatever. No, but in all seriousness, I see some leadership in him, but it's hard when the most mature, smartest players on the floor are not your best players, and they're new. So, I mean, JJ he's doing the part, although I didn't understand when you're down 7 and you go to the lane, was it 7? Was it 8? No, it was can't remember when the announcer said, but you're still down 3 possessions.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, at one point with a minute left or less, he had to shoot a 3, absolutely, and he drove to the hole. Now, he made it, whatever. Those are the types of things that, you know what, you're splitting hairs, but I thought that was a leadership thing and a basketball IQ thing. But the deal that I think is, I know Lampkin played 26 minutes. I think you're going to be seeing 30 minutes of Lampkin every night because, I mean, he was clearly nowhere near 100%.
No.
I appreciate him gutting it out, but I like also what Jay Williams said. You know, you could be hurting your team. It's like if you're that tired or you're not 100%, we have enough guys. So my positives are I think Davis needs more time. I thought tonight would have been a great opportunity to run with more Davis and Freeman. I mean, we got a logjam at the 4 because Petor's a 4, Freeman's a 4, Davis is a 4, and they all need to play. So to me, I hate to say it, but I'd like to see a little less Lampkin maybe and a little bit more of those guys or balance the minutes better. But here's the negative, okay?
All right.
The negative is just unbelievable to me. I mean, Carlos is like watching him play defense on 3-point shots is like watching Joe Girard, but you know Joe Girard can at least come back and hit a 3. Carlos is so bad. I just can't believe that this guy was an all-defensive player. I mean, he gets blown by. He's not helping. His help defense is atrocious. There was 2 key rebounds that he needed to get that he did not get, and they got the basket because of the offensive rebound. I mean, he literally cost us 12 points, and he gained us, a basket? I mean, I just don't understand how out of the first 30 minutes he played like 20.
Yeah, he played 26 minutes.
Like 20, yeah, I think he played 25 out of the first 30. And I'm going, what is going on here? I mean, I'd rather see Kyle Cuff, who can play defense and rebound, and he can shoot better than him. So, like, I would love somebody in the media to ask Red, hey, Red, what does Carlos have that Kyle Cuff doesn't have? I'm not even a Cuff guy. But I mean, Carlos literally is the reason we lost the game. If you look at the shots that were made, it's like Joe Girard 2.0. They were all over Carlos. I mean, Carlos's defense, they just shot right over him. Now, obviously, Texas Tech made a ton of stuff because of the lack of length that we possess up top to stop that playmaking. Carlos is, I am so anti-Carlos. It's like Justin Taylor 2.0.
Yeah, I said that last night. His shot, it's so, you never think the shot's going in. He had a wide open 3 in the second half, and he's in his head. He did actually start the game a little bit better, I thought, tonight. The only thing I'll say, Pat, and I'm with you. Like, I'll first start with that. I don't really think Carlos is long for playing 25 minutes or more in a game here. Let me just say, before we get back to you, the only thing I'll say is, I really like when JJ is off the ball in this offense, because I think our best offense right now for Syracuse is he's curling around a screen, he's catching it, he's going downhill to the cup. And it's a big problem because you don't want to play Carlos because of, like you're mentioning, he's not giving you anything on both ends really right now. And he has been a whiff so far in the transfer portal, and he'll probably get a little bit better, but you really don't want to rely on someone like that if you're talking about being an NCAA tournament team. And they don't really have anyone else that you feel good about to, like, bring the ball up and be that passer. Some fans will probably, and maybe you'll say Elijah Moore. I don't know. Like, it takes JJ as the point guard removes some of our best action. Now, you can still set up those actions, and I think it is still worth it to not play Carlos as much, but that's a flaw right now with this team.
Yeah, but let me just finish with this.
Yeah.
Okay, JJ played the entire game, and he had 2 assists, and that's nothing new. I mean, JJ, again, every time we ask players to do something more than what they're capable of doing, like what we did years ago with Joe Girard. You know, people were hating on Joe Girard, myself included, but the bigger piece was we had other options that we didn't go with in recruiting and the whole nine. But that's not the point. The point is you can't ask players to do too much. People were like, "Oh my God, Joe Girard made everybody in Syracuse look so stupid." No, he didn't. He was in a role that was conducive for his success. He did not get that because the coaching staff. And that's what I'm going to say. If JJ is your point guard, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You are in trouble unless you're a zone team. So I'm just going to leave you on this. I can't believe we didn't see more zone, especially with the tired legs, especially because you could have had Lampkin in the middle, getting rebounds, not doing
I don't know, though. I'm going to disagree on that because Texas Tech came in as one of the best shooting teams in the country. Like, is that the team you want to zone?
Yeah, but look at their action. I mean,
it was a lot of ball screens, and that's not good for them.
You know what? I would have at least liked it as a change of pace.
I agree.
You want to say they're a great 3-point shooting team? At least when they started that run, it was like a 20-6 run. I mean, switch it up. We call timeout. We come out of the timeout, and they score right on us. I just think that this team has a lot of options. It's going to take time and patience, which, unfortunately in college basketball, we just don't have it because it's been a brutal 10 years. You know, how many times on ESPN do we win? Or ESPN2? Every time it's a game where the nation's watching, we lose. I mean,
well, especially early season games. I went through it, and we can do it as we roll along with the show here. We got more callers to get to, so I got to let you go, Pat. But I appreciate it. Yep. And I went through it. It just hasn't been a lot of wins here. We can go through the recent history. You go back MSG, that 2018 year with Bowl, that was 2 losses. 2019 was Barclays Center, 2 losses in this type of tournament back-to-back. They did win at the Barclays Center a couple years ago against Richmond in overtime, then lost to St. John's in overtime. But even Richmond, that's not a power conference win. So they've had other power conference wins in the non-conference, but this first crack, this first tournament, first sort of measuring stick opportunity on ESPN, like Pat's talking about, often basically a home game for Syracuse in venues they used to own. I mean, it's tough because they just haven't been winning these games. And like I said, even though they hung around in this game tonight, it never really felt like they were truly going to win. Let's keep the phone calls coming here on our CuseSportsTalk.com exclusive post-game show, and let's check in with Chris in Syracuse. Chris, what's on your mind?
How's it going? I thought Chris Bell from last year, he never passed the ball. It's a consistent issue again, and I can't. What's up? Hope Chance Wesley comes soon because Colin's got to sit down, and the coaching staffs they haven't had a first-round pick since Tyler Lydon. So go to show you the coaching staff, you can't get a first-round pick in 7 years. This is pretty sad to say how this program has been coming down to. Ever since Bernie Fein's allegations came out, nothing's been the same. Even Troy Weaver recruited Carmelo. This is not what it's out to be.
We're going way back
Freeman.
here, Chris. All right. I mean, this coaching staff has proven they can get more talent in, though, I would say. Donnie Freeman is likely going to be a first-round pick. Kyan Anthony next year, Sadiq White next year are probably NBA players. So,
but Sadiq White is just more of a defender. I watch this kid play on videos. He's not an offensive player. He's a Donnie Freeman, but not as built like Donnie Freeman. I see this kid. It's going to take a couple years to develop that kid. And as far as Anthony, he might have a little skill-wise, but he's going to get pushed around in college. He might have a year to get built, but still, I don't think he's going to need a couple of years as well just to get under the – he won't be ready. He won't be ready. He won't be playing next season. So,
yeah, I would say, Chris, there has been a lack of talent in the program, and that's because they haven't been winning as much and they haven't been recruiting as good. But to get on this current coaching staff about talent input, I don't think is right because they do have some McDonald's All-Americans on the roster right now, and next year's roster on paper should be very talented. So
on paper, that means anything. I mean, you see Tyler Lydon wasn't an All-American when he went to the NBA, right? I mean, doesn't mean that those status of All-American doesn't mean anything until you actually put yourself on the court. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but you're counting out Sadiq White before he even comes here. Or, I mean, let's acknowledge that they have brought in more talent under Coach Autry in the last 2 years than, the 5-6 years before that.
You want to know why? Because no one wants to play for behind this old 2-3 zone style where kids want to play the offense, shoulder skill, NBA. That's why Chris Bell is struggling because he wants to have his shot more often. He's got to learn how to sit down. The coach got to put him down. He's got to be a team player. He's costing SU games like even yesterday under the ball screen,
Yeah, Chris didn't play well yesterday. Tonight he played fine. We got to keep the phone calls coming, so I appreciate you checking in. That is Chris in Syracuse. Let's see, who is up next? Let's go to Jordan, who is in Connecticut. Jordan, what do you got after this one?
Hi, how you doing? I'm actually in the car coming back from this game.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, just the hustle towards the end of the game was good, but Carlos, I mean, he can't shoot the ball. He can't when he gets to the rim, it just seems like he's too small to get up to the rim. And when he came from Hofstra, he's in a smaller conference with not as great players, and it just seems like he's not going to be ready for the ACC.
Yeah, Jordan, let me ask you this. I agree with you on Carlos. You were at both games or just the game tonight?
I was just at the game tonight.
Okay.
But, I mean, I've watched every single game.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Last night, the crowd really got into it. How many people were there tonight, and how much of it was orange? And did you feel like the crowd was a factor in the game tonight?
Towards the end of the game, yes. But towards the beginning of the game, there just wasn't much energy. I mean, it's pouring, it's raining here,
right.
And it's just really disgusting out. I mean, not a lot of people came out.
Yeah.
But there was no Texas Tech. but a lot of people started filling in for the Texas and St. Joe's game right after.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you on Carlos. It's tough. I think that is the number one problem with this team right now is the point guard spot. And I'm sure we're getting some commenters about Chance Westry, and I don't know if he's going to immediately make an impact when he comes back. That's the thing. I don't think he's quite the savior that maybe the fan base thinks he is at this point. So it's tough. I don't really know what the best thing to do is with Carlos other than he just probably needs to play a little bit less. Are you in the camp, like, let's just see JJ run point guard and let's put out Elijah Moore as the 2 guard? What would be like your ideal kind of starting and crunch time lineup right now?
I want to see Kyle Cuff in there for a few minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, he really played well. He hustled, and he knows how to play in the ACC. He played a little bit last year. And I just think if Autry gave him a little time, I feel like he could put up some numbers. I feel like he could do better than Carlos. And I think he can distribute the ball between Starling and then Chapa coming in for Cuff, and then Starling taking over at point guard, dishing the ball to Lampkin and Donnie. But the other thing I wanted to say was that Donnie, just when he was down in the post and getting the ball, he seems like he's just not very comfortable yet. Which is to understand because he's new, he's coming in, he's one of the biggest high school recruits. There's a lot of pressure on him. But every time he had the ball in the paint, he turned the wrong way towards the basket and was just hitting the front rim every time.
Yeah, I would say with Donnie, he's shooting too many threes for starters, and I think he should take open threes because he's a capable shooter, but you can tell Red is not happy every time he shoots a three, and he's doing too much of that. He's a work in progress on the defensive end, but I'm with you when he's posting up. He doesn't really look for contact too much. He's kind of a skinnier frame, I guess, but it felt like there was one play in the second half where they had a guard switched onto him, and he caught it in the mid-post, and he just didn't really even back down the guard or allow a double team to come or anything or kind of take advantage of that. So I don't think he really at this stage right now is leaning into like his physicality or his frame as much as you'd like to see. And I think it's just because he's just a young player that's still kind of figuring things out. So, I mean, it's early with Donnie. I'm not panicking. It's weird because last night his offense was the best part. Tonight, he did get on the boards, and clearly they probably talked to him about that. He had 13 rebounds tonight, so let's shout out that at least. But he's still kind of a work in progress on figuring out what is the best way for me to score, especially when he's got a smaller guy. Sometimes I just feel like he doesn't take advantage of that.
Yeah. I got one more thing for you.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, man.
Was it Carlos or no? Trying to think. What else were we talking about earlier? Carlos, Bell, rotations. We were talking about the starting lineup. See if we can jog your memory here.
The recruits. I want to.
Yeah.
Do we know anything about Tyler Jackson?
I don't know.
Right? Because I think he's like good friends with Cayenne, and I know they go to I think they went to high school together. Wondering if he can get in there, get into the program too. Because I know he's offered. And I know he's one of the top new priorities for Syracuse now for next year. I don't know anything about him other than he has been offered, and I would assume that they're kind of in probably like get one more guy max mode for that class because you want to leave some room for transfer portal. But then again, they do have a decent amount of upperclassmen that'll, Lampkin will be out of eligibility. Carlos will be out of eligibility. I think Davis will. There's going to be a lot of guys that could be on a hypothetical senior day this year. So, they probably have room for him, especially a talent like that. You're getting to the point then where you're balancing how many guys do we want to bring in next year that are freshmen and how many guys. Yeah. So, and we're probably right around that line right now, Yeah, I remember what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
The assists tonight. They had 18 assists, I think. We had about 9.
Yeah, 17 to 8 to be exact. Yeah.
17 to 8, yeah. We couldn't – it just feels like we can't pass the ball very well, and the turnovers were one of the biggest problems of tonight with Eddie. Eddie being sometimes good and then sometimes throwing it right to the tip of the center's hands and turning the ball over. I just think he's too focused on passing the ball and needing to go more into the guy as strong as he is and just lay the ball up. Because everyone knows he can do that.
Right. I think he was winded tonight. He didn't have a single assist, which I'm willing to bet he probably will have at least one assist in every game the rest of this year, honestly. Like, that's pretty rare considering he's playing this point forward role. He did have 2 turnovers. You look at the turnovers, the Orange had 12, Texas Tech had 3, and they had 2 turnovers right away. Syracuse again plays a game here where they just get no steals or deflections or anything of the like. 2 blocks, 3 steals, and they got 2 of those steals in the first 3 or 4 minutes of this game, right away. So they put a graphic up on the TV broadcast that Texas Tech literally did not have a turnover for the final 32 minutes of this game, which probably is some sort of record.
It's probably up there, yeah.
So, all right, Jordan, good stuff as always. I was hoping that people that were calling that went to the game today were going to be a little more jazzed up, but we appreciate you checking in after going to the game, and safe travels back to your home base there.
Have a good night.
All right, that is Jordan. Let's keep the phone calls coming here on our post-game show, brought to you by Burdick Lexus and Burdick BMW. Let's go back to the lines with Steve in North Syracuse, who has been waiting patiently. And, Steve, you always have some good insight after games like this. What is top of mind for you after this one?
Well, firstly, we have to give Jordan credit for coming through in the clutch and pressing the right button just
thank
when
God.
you needed it.
Clearly, I was clueless. So
I was on SyracuseFan.com while I was watching this, and all night long, Bell was getting rung by his critics for absolutely everything he did wrong. The guy wound up with 22 points and 11 for 11 from the foul line for a team that hadn't been shooting free throws very well. I think one good takeaway from this game is that he seems to have found his shot, and that should improve his confidence and improve the rest of this game. At least I hope it will. Starling once again came through with a big game when we needed it to stay in this one. I think in the previous call I said last year he was playing Robin to Judah Mintz's Batman, and this year he's Batman. He's a guy that can take over games, and it's important to have that. But those guys scored 49 of our 74 points. We're just not getting enough from the rest of the players. As to Lampkin, I thought he actually moved better tonight than he did the previous night when he showed a clear limp, but he may have been winded, and it may be a problem when we have to play consecutive games as we will in the ACC tournament and if we make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, but, I think he was, if anything, kind of in the questionable range before the game. So I think they understood that they might not be able to get quite as much out of him going into this game tonight.
If we can get 2 or 3 days between games, I think he'll be all right. I also think Texas Tech saw what happened against Texas and decided that they better get on him and try to cut off the passing lanes to him, and a lot of the turnovers were trying to get the ball to him or from him, and they kind of took him out of the game. Freeman is obviously a talented player. Again, people are getting on him, but he had 13 rebounds tonight. I think that his role with us eventually will be to be a center rather than a forward, because he's grown into a center-like body. He has lots to learn and needs to get stronger and all of those things, but I think that's what he'll eventually be. Hopefully he won't be a one-and-doner. I don't see a one-and-doner in him at this point. Also, I thought going into the season Westry would be our point guard because he was so similar to Quadir Copeland, who we had last year, at least looking at the films from Auburn. And I thought Copeland would take over for Mintz, except that he left even before Mintz did. And eventually he may be the answer to the Carlos situation, but we don't know when that will happen. Taylor is an excellent defender.
He is. Yeah.
But he shot 35% from three-point last year, and he's providing nothing on offense this year. And when we have Taylor and Carlos in the game at the same time, we just can't keep up with other teams. And when we have Starling and Lampkin on the bench, as we did for a while there, I think Red was probably trying to rest them for the final 10 minutes of the game. That's when we lost it, basically.
I agree. I wrote down right out of the under 12, they came out with a lineup that really we haven't seen all year. It was no Lampkin, Bell, or Starling, which I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but that's probably your three leading scorers on a points per game basis to this point in the year. And they were not in there. And this was after a 7-0 run from Texas Tech, took it to the under 12, and the game was kind of like in the 9 to 10 point range, I believe. And I think you're right. Red just wanted to give them a breather, but I felt like that's where they just needed to get Starling back in the game, and that's where the game truly was lost tonight. I mean, I don't know if they would have won. I don't think they would have won even if they went to Starling there, but you just need Starling, Lampkin, or Bell in a lineup, because this team, as much as we've talked about the defense, if you hadn't watched the first three games, you would have thought the offense was the biggest problem in these two games here against power conference competition. And when you replace Starling, or if he's not out there, they don't have a ton to turn to right now on offense. So I'm with you on that point.
Yeah, I think Red's still trying to figure out what his lineup, what his rotation should be, and I think eventually he may get it figured out, and maybe Westry will be a part of it, and this could be a much better team than we've seen. The question is, the way things are done, will we have lost too many games or missed too many opportunities to set us up for the postseason?
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Westry, when I talked to the coaches about him, they said, we're hoping he can get back and he can be our backup point guard. So I don't think, again, like the idea that he will just immediately come in, obviously you're talking like down the road, ACC play. I'm not overly confident that Chance Westry is going to start a game this year for Syracuse, or he is going to be truly an answer at the point guard position, just based on what they've told us, which is we're hoping he can come back and be the backup point guard. Now, that was before the opener and before Jaquan Carlos is clearly not playing up to par of what they probably projected he would, if we're being honest.
Yeah, Jaquan should be the backup to somebody.
Yes,
but not the starter. Well, let's hope for the best, but I think it's just very early, and we're still trying to figure all this stuff out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Steve. Thanks for checking in.
Thank you.
As always, that's Steve in North Syracuse. The phone lines are open right now. If you want to call in, we're going to try and get to Red Autry's full post-game press conference, as we typically do here on the Lexus Burdick BMW postgame show. So we'll get to that as soon as it is ready. We'll also, if we can't get to that, give you the thoughts of Coach as he left the floor and he met our guy Paulie before going into the tunnel that aired on the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield. So we'll get you some Red here before the postgame show is out, but I think we can hang out and make it to the full postgame press conference so we can all react to that live as it comes in here. So we are still waiting on that, but we'll let you know when we got that, and we'll get to Red as soon as we can. So I want to go through a little bit of kind of some of these recent early season tournaments here and speak to just this is the same problem that Syracuse has had here in recent years. And if you do have any questions or comments, I'll keep my eye on the chat as we're rolling late night here on QSportsTalk.com. But you drop both of these games, and the frustrating thing is you were 10-point underdogs or right around that in both of these games to Texas and Texas Tech. The Orange actually did bump up in KenPom just a hair this weekend. They went to 100, but of course that's on the outside looking in at the moment. You go back to last year, it was the Maui tournament. Tough assignment, of course, for that team last year. You played Tennessee, Gonzaga. You lose both of those games. If you want to count Chaminade as an away neutral site tournament victory, you can, but that one didn't even count for the net rankings or anything like that because it wasn't a Division I team. And then you go back to the year before that, lost to Colgate game 2, You go to Barclays to play Richmond. You win that game in overtime, then you lose in overtime the following night to St. John's. So Richmond was 150 on KenPom that year, St. John's 82, and you go 1-1 in that tournament, but you still don't really get a power conference win there at Barclays. Year before that, Bahamas tournament, lose to VCU, really struggled to score, 67-55. Win against Arizona State in the middle game of the Bahamas, 3 games there. The final game was a blowout loss to Auburn, a very good Auburn team. So that's going back now 3 years, and really not much to speak of. Arizona State is your only power conference win in that first tournament. Now, they've had other power conference wins. There was an Indiana overtime win, I believe a couple years ago now. But it's these tournaments early on that have just been, remember, Syracuse won the tournament in 2016, the Bahamas tournament, then went to the Final Four that year. And that tournament win was the reason why they made it into the NCAA tournament. Since then, it just feels like deja vu. Every time the Orange are playing at New York City, in and around there, if they're playing in any of these neutral site tournaments, it's been losses, and a lot of them have been double-digit losses. And most of the time you enter these tournaments thinking actually pretty well about the team off of blowout wins. This time around, it was, of course, 3 very close wins. And maybe the general perception coming off of this tournament is the team is actually a little bit better than we thought through the first 3 games. I think they did get better here. And there's still a ton of season left here. So I'm not trying to hit the panic button. But at the same time, you're 2 power conference games in, you've lost 2 of them. You start to look at what the schedule is ahead here. You come back home Wednesday night, Cornell. Cornell is 215 on KenPom. Right now, the Orange are projected to win that game by 11. Then you go to Tennessee, and Tennessee is one of the best teams in the country, and it's a true road game for the first time this year. That's just a tough game. I mean, I can't even guess what the spread is going to be for that. It's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 14 or 15 points. The Tennessee is favored in that game, maybe even more. I mean, KenPom has it 84-65, 19-point win right now for Tennessee, and usually the spread is pretty close to Tennessee. So that's going to be a tough game to win. Notre Dame after that, first ACC game on the road. That might be a really important game as we start to size up, when can Syracuse get a win? After that, Albany, then Georgetown at home. Georgetown's a little bit better, but you still should win that game at home. And then you do return to the Barclays Center again to play Maryland. You're right now 8-point dogs to Maryland, according to KenPom, for whatever that is worth. So it's getting late early again in a way, and it's almost like a bummer that the games fell this way, because it's not as if we should have expected Syracuse to win any of these first 2 games here. But at the same time, they didn't get any sort of win that they have in their back pocket, and we're through 5 games now. And they're not going to obviously get that type of win against Cornell. So then you're starting to look at Notre Dame. I wouldn't call it a must win, of course. You can't say that, but it just feels like we're falling into that same trap that we've seen Syracuse fall into recently here. So we'll see. I would say there's still plenty of time remaining in this season here, and I do think we saw some encouraging things. But the tough part is the Orange are still in figuring out the lineup mode, and you don't want to be in figuring out the lineup mode against Notre Dame, because if you lose that game to Notre Dame, assuming you lose to Tennessee as well, all of a sudden you got 4 losses, and you're not really in a great spot overall at that point. So we'll see what happens as we get further into the season here in terms of the lineups. But you go through what the lineup was tonight, and we'll try to hang on here and hear from Coach Autry here in a little bit, get his full post-game press conference. Let me pull back up the chat because that just dropped on my end, so I can make sure. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and we'll continue to react to this one together as the Orange did fall here to Texas Tech. It's got to take me time to get back to the chat and kind of get everyone back up to speed in terms of the most recent comments there. But going through the rotation, so Donnie Freeman plays 29 minutes, and I'm sure there were a lot of people last night that said, why did Freeman only play 15 minutes? You kind of see why he only played 15 minutes last night. This was maybe a C game for Donnie Freeman tonight. I mean, you got to give him credit for the rebounding, and once again, Syracuse proves that they have taken strides as a team rebounding-wise as the best Syracuse team we've seen in a very long time in terms of rebounding. So 39 rebounds to 30 from Texas Tech. The Orange were +9 on the glass here tonight. They did give up 6 offensive rebounds in the second half, 9 total offensive rebounds in this game from Texas Tech, which is actually half of what they had in the last time. Notre Dame lost to Elon. Okay, so that's a good sign. But according to Ken Palm, Notre Dame is still favored right now against Syracuse. And, you know, you could play that game of Syracuse hung on and beat Lemoyne and all that. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely in the conversation of a early season can't lose type of game if you do lose to Tennessee. But probably a little too early to start talking about that. Pat says too many one-dimensional players. I would agree with that a little bit, Pat. I think given where this roster is right now, I go back to the biggest concern is point guard, and I think we're going to get to a point where J.J. Starling is just your main guy at the point guard spot, and then you're rotating Elijah Moore, Lucas Taylor. I don't know what to make of Taylor, honestly, long-term, because if you're given nothing on offense, it's hard to justify playing you more than 10 minutes. And that's what Taylor played tonight, 10 minutes. At the same end of the spectrum, Taylor has given you about as good of defense as anyone. And if defense is truly a flaw with this team, I guess you can live with him being out there for 10, 15 minutes when he's guarding the top guy and he's getting you stops. And I do think he is the best on-ball defender. I think Kyle Cuff is in that conversation as well. And we got some callers on that topic. I think Cuff is just a little bit smaller than Taylor, and I again, Cuff when he's out there just doesn't really make shots as much as you would like. So, I mean, he's shot it fine. I think he was like low 30s percentage from 3 last year. But overall, it's like you need Taylor and Cuff to make shots to feel better about playing them. If Taylor could shoot 34%, I would be shot. Yeah. His shot doesn't look good. It kind of feels like a push shot that I think they said he's 1 for 7 or 1 from 8 from 3 now in the season. So Taylor, to me, is probably going to be in the rotation throughout the season, but I don't think he's ever a starter. Like his ceiling, we kind of already know, right? Taylor and McLeod starting is the worst starting lineup in many moons. Yeah, I don't think you're going to start McLeod this year. I do think McLeod should play a little bit more depending on the matchups. Tonight wasn't a great matchup for him. I think Texas Tech was very clearly trying to get Syracuse in ball screen action and take advantage of their center flaws, and they did that with Lampkin kind of winded. He was struggling to get stops early on, so then the Orange went to that smaller lineup. So at least we have seen Cuff make multiple threes in a game. Yeah, he gave you some good minutes. I believe it was that Oregon game last year. He came in, he provided a spark. I think he does give you energy. I'm not saying, like, don't play Cuff, but, again, we have so many conversations about the rotation, and it gets to a point where we're just saying play everyone sometimes. Like, would you rather Cuff be in the game right now, San Diego Cuse, than Taylor? Because I can kind of see that if Taylor is still going to continue to struggle this much from three-point range, although I think Taylor does give you a little bit more size than Kyle Cuff. But, yeah, I don't know what rotation tweaks we're going to see. I do feel like point guard is the biggest issue, and Starling running the show at the point, as we talked about earlier, is probably not the best-case scenario. And you know, hats off to J.J. Starling because he looks like the dude right now. 27 points again tonight after he had 38 against Youngstown. I can't remember off the top of my head what he had last night, but he, of course, led the team in scoring last night. Yeah, you're saying Cuff over Carlos? Yeah, I guess. I mean, at what point do you admit defeat on Carlos and just take him totally out of the rotation? I don't really know if the coaching staff's going to get to that point because he's the guy they brought in from the portal, and I think they like his passing. But, yeah, Carlos isn't getting you any steals, and you got to find a way to get more steals. The Auburn transfer, yeah, Chance Westry. I don't know if hopefully you see him a little bit against Cornell, but even that feels optimistic, honestly, at this point. We'll see. Yeah, Carlos, they're asking him to do too much. I agree with that. It's not really happening for him, and he's not a starting point guard at this level. I think we can say after what we've seen from 5 games. That's a good question, Supercat. So who's going to be giving you assists on this team as you look at what the roster is? Carlos was supposed to be that guy. He gave you 3 assists tonight in 26 minutes. He's probably not going to play nearly that much when you get into ACC play, the way things are trending. Although I'd be pretty surprised if he's just like out of the starting lineup against Cornell. I think they're going to ride with him for a little bit longer than maybe the chatters would like, or the fans online would like. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of roll with him here for the next stretch of the non-conference as their starter and just make sure that they can't get more out of him before they kind of give up. But who's going to be giving you assists? I mean, Lampkin almost has to be your top assist man, and he's a center. Starling's never going to be an assist guy. Bell, we know, is never going to be an assist guy. And you went into this year thinking this is going to be a better three-point shooting team, and this is going to be a better team in terms of passing the basketball. And right now, I don't really know if that's going to be the case. I mean, three-point shooting a little bit better tonight. It went cold in the second half, though. I mean, I say a little bit better. They were 6 for 21 from 3 still. So that's what? I think they were 5 for 21 last night. So 1 3 made better tonight. The free throw shooting much better, 24 for 28. So that's the one thing that you thought, okay, can they clean that up? They definitely did that. Chris Bell, by the way, attempted 11 free throws tonight. Bell has attempted 27 free throws this year through 5 games. Last year, all of last year, he took 38 foul shots. So he's 11 away from tying his total from all of last year. If he repeated his game tonight, he would tie the total. That's a positive, but at the same time, there are still flaws with this team and question marks. Majstorovic, I think, will be an option as a passer. And yeah, I would say he is a rotation piece going forward. It's just puzzling to me that I'd like to hear from Red on that, because were they just never willing to throw him out there against Texas because Texas is explosive and just has a little bit more to offer in that regard? So I don't know. I think the fact that Majstorovic played crunch time tonight, I just didn't see coming. But keep throwing your questions here in the Cuse Sports Talk chat. We are waiting on to see if we can get a full press conference from Red. It's not looking too likely, so we might have to wrap things up here in a little bit. But we will get you some of the reaction here from Red. Jordan is pulling it up, some of the live tweets that came in, and we can summarize kind of what he said here in a little bit. But we have not seen that YouTube link drop, so unfortunately, probably not going to get that presser. We'll hang on for a little bit more and keep taking your questions here in the chat. The Orange again back in action against Cornell. That'll be Wednesday night is the next game. Mike, my day is going great. Thank you for asking. Jerry leaving has an effect on the shooting, Gavendo. No, not really. I mean, I guess a little bit, but I wouldn't put much stock into that. Like, this team's just not really shooting great overall. You just let's roll through the tweets here because our computers are down. All right, this is some of what Red said postgame, relaying from our guys at WAER Sports. Red, Elijah, Chris, and JJ, those are the guys taking the shots. So he's sort of reiterating, like, yeah, we're getting the guys that we want to shoot from 3, even though it was another tough shooting night. 3-point field goal percentage was 5 for 12, I think, in the first half. And then, as I said, 6 for 21 at the end of the game. Autry on this group improving defensively. Our guys have seen that they can do it. Definitely better defense overall. And now it looks like, okay, we're going to have the full Red presser here in 5 minutes. Jordan has promised 5 minutes. So hang on for Red Autry. We can't even spoil it anymore. Jordan just brought his phone in for no reason. But we'll get you Red here in 5 minutes. He's hard at work. Shout out to Jordan, who is always working behind the scene. He figured out the caller button, or else we would have had no idea. If you do want to call in, I guess before Red, you can 315-437-7644 as we roll along here with our CuseSportsTalk.com only post-game show. Let's see what else we got. Sienna's dropped 2 in a row. Yeah, they played Xavier, right? 80-55. I think that was the Xavier game. 2 tickets for tomorrow if anyone's interested. All right, Al. Yeah, football tomorrow. I keep forgetting. There's so much going on right now. Read Jordan's text instead. I should do that. Let's see. Let me scroll up to the comments. Some Chance Westry stuff. I think we've hashed that out. Wouldn't expect him to be the savior. Really don't think he's ever going to be a starting point guard option this year. Maybe I'm wrong. But from what I've seen in practice, I just think he's still got a little bit of a ways to go to feel like he's a true impact player. And he gets back to kind of, I'm guessing, where he was at last year. I didn't see him a ton last year, of course, because he really just didn't practice much once the season started and he had the injury. But obviously, he's a talented guy. I'm not like ruling him out. I just think we do have to temper expectations. The guy that we're going to see in the first game back is probably not going to be some world beater. And, you know, I'm sure what will happen is he'll probably play like 5 minutes in his first game back and will completely overreact to those 5 minutes. But I don't think he's a savior in waiting here, unfortunately, because that would be nice to have. Pat, you think I'm wrong on Westry, or what are you saying? I don't really, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I'll put it that way. I just don't know if he's the guy that the fans think he is at this point. I think you have to keep in mind he's coming off of several injuries. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he was a talented guy. So, and obviously he still is talented. I just think keep in mind, like, what's going to happen with Chance here is he's going to play like 5 minutes, then he's going to play like 6 minutes, then he's going to play 7 minutes, and it's going to be a slow build-up from there. So, the general fan I talk to, I think, expects that he is going to be like the starting point guard someday, and I would be pretty surprised by that. All right, I guess we do have Reds presser. Shout out to Jordan. He made it work. We will wrap things up on our post-game show by giving you the full post-game press conference from our guy, Red Autry, after this one.
You know, I thought the game got decided in the second half. You know, in the first half, we did a really good job of keeping them out of transition. I don't think they scored in transition 5 second chance points. I thought that was a difference in the second half. We had a couple of turnovers that led to some easy baskets for them, and obviously in that little run, we gave up 2 offensive rebounds again from our guards. And we just got to do a better job of that. You know, that happened against the Texas game as well. So, you know, that's the thing that we have to do a better job of. Even though, you know, our rebounding numbers look good and we out-rebounding them, it's the timing of it. It's the timing of the rebounds that we've kind of given away. But, you know, again, these are no moral victories, but, you know, as a coach, you know, coming down here, playing against this type of competition, I think we got better. I think especially on the defensive side of the basketball, I thought, you know, we really showed some leaps and bounds and improvements in what we can be. And we got to continue to build on that. You know, it's a long season, and we're going to work tirelessly to get everything else figured out. You know, I think shooting is always a touchy subject. You know, sometimes you make shots, sometimes you don't. But, you know, I would say this, you know, the guys that we think can make the shots, the guys that have proven that they can make the shots are shooting the basketball. And I think that's the thing that you got to, you know, as a coach, that's what you want to do. You want to have the right guys taking them. And again, you know, Chopper, Elijah, Chris, and JJ, those are the guys that are, you know, taking the shots. You know, again, they're getting good shots. You know, I thought, you know, Chris had a great block and a big 3 in the corner that just kind of rimmed in and out. You know, that's how it goes. But again, the team battled. You know, we just got to continue to battle and getting better, and we will. You know, it's a long season, so we just got to continue to make progress. You know, we made some progress this weekend, and, you know, and again, no one is happy with the results. This is not moral victory. This is not moral victory talk, but this is a long season, and you got to, you know, every game is going to be different. And I thought we came down here and, show something that we hadn't showed in the first 3 games. I thought we showed some fight. I thought we showed some defensive potential. Some defensive potential, and we just got to keep building on that. That's the type of coach I am. I'm gonna build my guys up, and we're gonna keep getting better. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep getting better, and we know we can get better. And I think they had a chance to see it, and that's the thing that we got to pull from this is continue to get better. We still got tough games ahead of us, and we got to win those. We got to be ready to win those, and this is a part of it. Any questions?
Coach, how do you think these 2 games will help you guys moving forward as you guys progress towards more quad 1 games and just ACC play?
I thought we made a jump defensively, even though, we held these 2 teams that are really good shooting teams, pretty much, and some around in the 70s, and then that was a big sign. I mean, that was a big progress. So I think on the defensive side, our guys have seen that they can do it. All right, and I think they understand, and they've worked really hard. So I think the progress that we've made is definitely on the defensive side of things.
Coach, last night you said you had the right guys taking the right shots, and tonight you said it again. But how do you get better production from guys outside of J.J. Starling and Chris Bell? Obviously, they carried the bulk of your scoring tonight, but you probably needed a little bit more production from other guys. How do you get that?
I think we got to. We got to continually, move the ball, share the ball. Again, I think we have to do a better job of getting the ball to Eddie, closer to the basket. And, they did a really good job of pushing him out. And his catches were too far out today. So we got to do a better job of that. I think, the one thing I will say is we got to try to get the ball inside a little bit more, but closer to the rim. We caught the ball off the block, and our guys, couldn't do anything. We settled for some jump shots early on, and then eventually we started attacking the rim, and I think that's the thing that we have to do better is continually attack and then, get those shots.
Yeah, Coach, this is kind of unrelated to the game, but obviously you were that Kyan Anthony, the son of Carmelo Anthony, is committed to Syracuse next year. I mean, I just want to give you overall thoughts on Kyan Anthony picking Syracuse as his college destination.
Obviously he's a great player, we're excited to have him. We look forward to it, But right now, I'm worrying about this year's team. Thank you.
Yeah, Adrian. So you've talked about your team shooting the ball, shooting the 3 in practice, and they've shot it fairly well. And why don't you think that's translating? Are you getting good enough shots, or what is happening in these games? Do you think?
I thought we got good shots. I really did. I mean, I think, the shots that we're getting, are good shots, corner threes in transition, off the drive and kick, off the, catching the ball and, looking down. I thought we got good looks, again. They just, the ball is not going in. We're getting the ball to the right guys, and sometimes we may miss them here and there, but for the most part, these guys, I think all Chris looks were good. I think also sometimes he's not ready to shoot them. He has to be ready. Pump faked on a couple. I thought he could have got off. We started the game. We got him some good looks. But I think the other guys got to make their shots too. Again, like the rest of the guys, not to say that they got to make 3 or 4, but they got to be able to knock 1 or 2 down. And those guys are just not doing that consistently. The rest of the guys got to be able to make 1 or 2. That'll help us a lot. And that's just not happening right now.
Coach, 2 tough losses down here in Brooklyn, but what can you say about the fans that showed out and made these 2 games almost feel like home games here in a neutral site and the impact that it might have had on your team?
I thought it was, I was very excited about the fans, coming down, our fans coming down to support, very disappointed in the results. But they came out, and they gave our guys a big lift. I think our guys appreciated that. Again, I'm just disappointed that we couldn't, pull out a victory these 2 nights. I thought we had a chance to win 2 games down here, and we didn't do that. So we got to keep working and do a better job. But, the fans, our community, we got real loyal fans, and they, again, and that's what makes Syracuse special. So I think our guys, the new guys, got a chance to see, our fan base travel.
Adrian, looking at the point guard position, Jaquan continues to struggle a little bit. I was wondering, what are you seeing when you look at him? And are there any guys that are on the bench, like Chance or Kyle, that could maybe help you at the same position?
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I think I'm not sure if people understood why we brung JC in. All right, we brung JC in to get other people the ball. All right, we wasn't bringing him in to be a big-time scorer. Now, does he have to make some shots? Yeah, he does. He has to make some shots, but the biggest thing is that we're not making shots. His impact is being able to get JJ the ball in the right places and trying to get the ball down into Eddie and Chris. That was why we brung him here. And he's not, doing it as impactfully as we would like. And so, we just, I'm not going to just give up on 4 or 5 games into the season. All right, he's a good player. All right, we got to play better. We haven't played better to our abilities yet. But I think he's a guy that needs to get people the ball. When he gets a shot, he needs to be able to make the shots. He has been making the shots. He's got people the ball, but we haven't been able to finish or convert when he has. And he has to play better. We have to play better. And as far as Chance, everyone wants to know about Chance. Chance hasn't played in 2 years. He just got cleared. Do you know how long it takes you to get in game shape? Right? And he's working to get in game shape. All right? I'm just not going to throw him out there and he's not ready to play or impact the team. All right, and he can, and I think when he gets there, he'll get there, and I think that's, hopefully, fingers crossed, soon. All right, he adds some depth to us and stuff like that, but I don't know what we're gonna get when he comes back and plays. Nobody does. Nobody knows what we're gonna get. He doesn't even know. Again, but he's battled hard, and I'm proud of his the way he's attacked his rehab, and his spirits are good, and he's just trying to get into shape right now, and that's what we want. He has to clear a couple of checkpoints before he can play. All right, is he available? We've got our 7-minute game right now. Yeah, he can run up and down maybe for 2 minutes, maybe a minute, but he can't. He's not ready to play right now, and he wants to be ready to play. He wants to be out there ready to play and make an impact, not just be out there. So we're working towards that.
Coach, on a lighter note, Peter Majstorovic played a lot tonight down the stretch. Biggest moments of his young career. Why did you feel like it was a time to get Peter in the game, especially given that he didn't play last night?
I thought Peter, the way our roster is set up, I think we have some depth. I think Peter, obviously he's not as big as Eddie and he's not as strong as Eddie, but he kind of, helps our offense move, and he was active, he was fresh. We wanted to give, we wanted to try to get Eddie's minutes down a little bit, from the last game. But I just thought Peter gave us a great lift. I mean, he came in 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes, 3 offensive rebounds, 6 total. And I thought he gave us a good lift. He's a good player. He knows how to play. He's very smart. He can move the ball. He plays for other people. He makes the game a little bit easier. Again, so I thought he gave us a good lift. I thought, he gives us, he's not as, gives us that presence as Eddie, but he gives you that Eddie-like feel that you can move offense and put him in with anybody. He can play with anybody and help us offensively and defensively. He gives you everything he has. He's a kid that gives you everything he has every night. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. He's in the gym relentlessly. And again, he's going to get better for us.
Got time for 2 more.
Coach, I thought, your rebounding, Eddie and Donnie really did a good job of keeping them off the boards and keeping you in the game. Like at halftime, JT Toppin was kind of neutralized at that point. I got two questions concerning the bigs. One, Donnie led the team with 13 rebounds, which I thought was impressive, with a guy like Toppin on the floor. I wanted you to speak to that, about his development. And the other thing is, we've talked about this a couple times tonight. It's come up, getting the ball to the bigs. What specifically do you think you can do to make sure, because a lot of things from last night, you seem to improve tonight, but Eddie had that quiet game. So what can you specifically do other than just say, get the ball to Eddie? Is it as simple as that?
No, I think we got to do a better job of, whenever we're in our actions, trying to get it to him, screening a little bit better, holding our screens. And I think we got to take better, we got to get the ball to him at the right time. All right. Now, again, we got to be able to handle the pressure, get people and get the right angle. that's one thing, and we're going to work on that and continue to work on that. We're working on it every day anyway, and because he's a big part of, I think, what we do. So I think it's just, really kind of, the timing of the play sometimes, and just, obviously, we can't, they did a good job of pushing them out, right? They pressured the passer. When we got to the ball and they knew that we were trying to go inside, they really did a good job of pressuring the passer, and then they pushed him out. So we just got to keep working on that, getting better at that. Donnie getting 13 rebounds, that was good. He can rebound. He's active. The one thing he can do naturally is he can rebound the basketball. It's just the other things that we got to keep getting better at. He's a freshman. Him and Elijah Moore, those guys are freshmen, and and they just got to keep growing. Especially on the defensive end. I thought Elijah gave us some really good minutes today. He came in, and again, he had an open shot that he typically makes. So that's just kind of the story about shooting right now. Guys that typically, and they're getting good shots. I mean, they're getting open shots. They're just not making them. But our two freshmen are really good. They give us a spark. We just got to keep, growing with them, and we will grow with them, and keep moving forward.
Last question. Coach, I wanted to ask about sort of the second half shooting struggles. I know you said you're getting good shots. Do you think fatigue, second game in 2 days, do you think that might have played a little bit of a role in the second half in terms of the shooting struggles? No, I didn't think so. Again, I mean, the last three Chris got after that block, he sprinted to the corner. He was wide open. We got it to him. So, I don't think fatigue, and we worked too hard. So fatigue is not an answer. We work really hard. Our guys are in condition to play these games. So, fatigue is not it. And, all these guys, got minutes and played, So, fatigue that's not an excuse. We don't really make excuses for the shots or things that happen. We try to make it better, correct it, whatever that is, whatever that is. No one can be harder on our team, and no one can set our expectations than what we have for ourselves. We have high expectations for ourselves, and we work at it every day. And we just got to keep going.
Thanks, Coach. We're in the same locker room.
All right, there's Coach Autry after this one. As we wrap up here, I thought the two most interesting things he said there, one being his comment on Jaquan Carlos, on how, people have to understand why we brought him in is to get other guys the ball. I think there's no doubt that Carlos needs to start making some shots. Even if his role is not to be a scorer, you got to be able to hit an open three or just be somewhat of a threat to score to feel good about starting him at the point guard spot. But based on what I heard from Red there, Carlos is the starting point guard going forward for at least a little bit. And I don't think he's as down on Carlos as maybe the rest of Orange Nation is, or the fan base is at this point. And I also don't think there's much behind him compared to maybe what the perception is about Chance Westry. I mean, you heard Red there. Based on what he just said, that's kind of what I've been saying too. It's like, it's going to take time here for Chance. And I was thinking maybe we'd see him a little bit against Cornell, just because that's kind of one of these games in a stretch of power conference games where you could maybe see Syracuse getting up. Now, they didn't get up against lower conference competition before. But, I mean, he said I could throw him out there for a minute or two and then he'd get tired. So I don't know if we're seeing that guy against Cornell, if he's still getting tired after a minute or two, and it's going to take time. And I don't think anyone should be thinking right now that Chance Westry is going to be the starting point guard on this team in conference play, really. I think that would be a very pleasant surprise. So the point guard is a problem, and they got to figure that out. I don't know if it's just running JJ at the point. I think that's probably where we're heading here. But that'll definitely be a talking point as we continue on. So that's going to do it for our CuseSportsTalk.com post-game show. Thanks to Jordan out there, who does a great job, as always, did a great job as always. He got us that red presser. We saw it before anyone else saw it. We got to react to it live. So we will be back on Monday with the full shows. We got football tomorrow. I'm sure Brian will have some pregame before that tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that ahead of that noon kickoff. Tomorrow, there will be no postgame for the next basketball game Wednesday because that is Thanksgiving Eve. But as always, when we get Red Autry, that's brought to you by RomanoCars.com. And this has been the Burdick Lexus Burdick BMW postgame show. Thanks for everyone hanging out here late night in the chat, and we'll talk to you next time on CuseSportsTalk.com.